In this conversation is Dak Prescott, who still doesn't have a long-term deal in Dallas. And yesterday here on this show, Dominique Foxworth had something very interesting to say about what Dak's next move should be. Listen to this.
And if I'm Dak, I want to get the hell out of there. And it's not to suggest that the Cowboys situation is like awful like it feels like in Houston. I feel so disrespected on behalf of Dak Prescott. He's been tremendous for this team, had big moments in the playoffs, carried them throughout the regular season, and they seem to give him less and less support the longer he's there. I think that Dak's career could be much greater than it is now if he goes to another situation where they have good weapons and a better defense.
So that's what he said yesterday, and I'm looking through this here. Hembo sent it to me. There have been 17 instances of a sign and trade in NFL history with a player who was franchise tagged. So you tag him, and then you can trade him. Dan Graziano, does that feel like a possibility with Dak in Dallas after all this time?
It does not right now because of how steadfast Dallas has been and continues to be to say that Dak Prescott is their quarterback and that they want him to continue to be their quarterback. Again, the narrative that they've disrespected him is not entirely accurate. They have made attempts to sign him with contracts that they felt were at or near the top of the market, and because of structure, terms, length of the contract, et cetera, they haven't been able to work it out. That has as much to do with Dak Prescott as it does with the Cowboys. But if they franchise him again, it's $37.7 million this year, and then next year would be $52. So if they franchise him again and he plays on the franchise tag, he's gone. There's no way he's playing for them beyond 2021. And if you get to that point and you're the Cowboys, then you'd be doing yourself a disservice if you didn't at least think about other options. Look, if we have him and we know we don't have him for next year and he's going to leave and we're going to get nothing in return, do we look into what we might be able to get for him at this point? And that's where you start to look, maybe Matthew Stafford, who's pretty cheap for the next 2 years at $20 million and $23 million. Is that something you want to look at? But at this point, the Cowboys are not there.
I'm trying to remember where Matthew Stafford grew up again. Oh, right there in Dallas. Dan Orlovsky, how's that sound to you? A sign and trade, Dak for Stafford.
Well, I would hate it, Greeny, because then I would have to root for the Cowboys, because I'd have to pull for my friend like I always do, right? I mean, it makes a ton of sense for the Cowboys, okay? Unquestionably, Matthew Stafford is way more talented at the quarterback position than Dak is. The Lions would have to ask themselves the compensation, is that going to be enough? Do they think highly enough of Dak Prescott? I look at this whole situation like this, Greeny. If you're Dak Prescott, I've got 3 questions. Are you going to pay me my money? Like, you didn't pay me my money last year, so are you going to pay me now what I want? Number 2, what the heck about me did you find out this year that is going to change that value? Like, what did you find out that you didn't already know? It took me getting my ankle turned sideways for you to figure out that you wanted to pay me my money? Like, that would be a question I need answered. And then number 3, I think he has to ask himself, does he want to stay? Like, what does he want? You get to the NFL and you have one goal, get to a second contract. We know that's happening. And then your second goal is, what do you want out of yourself? Like, what do you want your legacy to be? Is it individual success or is it team success? I think he needs to answer that question. And stop telling me that, like, playing quarterback for the Cowboys is the greatest thing in the world. Like, listen, just be really good, win a ton of games, you'll get a ton of endorsement money off the field.
That's fair. I mean, there are some advantages of being a Cowboy. Just watch any game on television any week, but that's a different conversation. Bart Scott, what do you think?
I mean, listen, Dan, you played for the Lions. I'm from Detroit. I'm a suffering Lions fan. Why the hell would Dak Prescott ever agree to anything going to Detroit so he can bite kneecaps and ankles? I'm not standing around for that. Listen, if I'm Dak Prescott, I'm forcing my way out of there. I'm saying, Dallas, you had the opportunity to tell me and show me how much you love me. You didn't do that, so now I'm going to do what's best for me. And listen, for everybody that says that they didn't disrespect Dak Prescott, they absolutely did. Because guess what? You should have overpaid for me, because guess what? You've had a discount for 4 years because I was a 4th-round draft pick. I wasn't making millions of dollars. You could have made it right. If I'm Dak Prescott, why would I want to stay in Dallas? Tyron Smith is all his better days is behind him. That offensive line can't protect me anymore. I'm saying, listen, I'm not signing back here. You can franchise tag me all you want, but this is the last year I'm playing here. I'm going to wait it out, and I'm going to have a wink-wink with San Francisco and be able to go play for an organization that's ready to win now, that's in the prime, that can protect me, that has great offensive linemen, great running game, great young receivers, and a tremendous defense. It's too much pressure that's going to be put on Dak Prescott. They can't already build a team around him right now. What are they going to going to be able to do if they give him more cheese on his taco, then they're not going to be able to build that defense, and he's going to have more expectations on him. He's going to get all the damn blame. I'm going to San Francisco. Perfect fit.
I'm with you. And look, I mean, Jeff Saturday said it at the beginning of the season. He would Kirk Cousins them to death. And if you know what that means, Kirk Cousins played the franchise tag into becoming one of the richest players in football history. Let's see if Dak does that. Meanwhile, as we continue, there is one destination for Mike T. When Deshaun Watson requests/demands a trade, what's the first thing you do?
It's an opportunity. I'm Nick Caserio. I go with David Culley, our new head coach, and we go to wherever Deshaun Watson is with him, his agent, and anybody else in his sphere of influence and say, hey, look, we can't worry about what happened in the past. We have to flush it. But I have this yellow pad here. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions about what you want to accomplish, not only on the field, but off the field, about what sort of transformational legacy you want to lead. And we're going to work together. So 10, 20 years from now, be it a charity or foundation, we're going to stand shoulder to shoulder and build something really special together. We apologize how we got here, but I've been on the job for 10 minutes. Coach Culley was hired last night, and we want to move forward collectively.
Got it. So now let's just say that he responds the way I believe he will, which is you can say anything you want, but the person who's actually supposed to do all those things asked my opinion on something and then disregarded it completely, and there are any number of other reasons why he wants out. So let's just live in a world, Mike T., where you can't talk him into staying. Take me through the mechanics. Now you're the general manager. The whole world knows he wants to be traded, and you've come to the conclusion we have to trade him. How does that work then? Are you taking calls? Are you making calls? Take me through the mechanics of how this trade gets done.
So, Greedy, we really have to thread the needle here because we're going to make calls. We're going to explore each and every opportunity. But here's what's really important. They don't have unfettered leverage here because what I'm going to say to Deshaun Watson and his agent at that point is you have to do what's in your best interest. We have to do what's in our best interest. And if we don't get what we feel is fair market value, apparently you're going to retire because we understand you want to be traded. We're disappointed. We're going to do that. But if we don't get what we want as an organization, we're just not going to give you away and then you don't have to play and we'll move forward. So I'm looking for 3 number 1 picks. And maybe a good young player, but he's too good. He's under contract for 5 years, 25 years old. I want 3 first-round picks and a good player, and I'm going to let the whole world know that.
3 first-round picks and a good player. Dan Orlovsky, I saw you shaking your head when we were talking about the idea of the Texans trying to talk him into sticking around. And I know that you've talked to a lot of people. That's not on the table here, and it has nothing to do with things on the field, yes?
Absolutely. I mean, listen, be very careful playing hardball in this situation if you're the Houston Texans. Like, let's really look at this. Deshaun Watson is the same player throughout all the years of being under Bill O'Brien. When all of us were saying, like, this is not a good coach, this is not a good situation, he'd stand up there and go, no, Coach O'Brien's the man. Like, I love playing for Coach O'Brien. He's our coach. So this is very little to do with what's happened on the field. He is not staying there. The Texans have no choice. There was a line drawn, and they've crossed it. And so are you really going to hold him hostage? Like, I was in Detroit with Matthew Stafford and Calvin Johnson, 2 remarkable players. We were really bad. They never once asked out because they never once felt like there was that line that was crossed that you disrespected me as a person. The Houston Texans have absolutely no choice here. They are going to have to move Deshaun Watson, and they better not play hardball because you better be careful of how you want to get exposed by a very powerful player and agent.
Ninko, I haven't had a chance to ask you your thoughts on this week. What do you make of the whole thing?
All right, so let's think back when Billy O traded away Hopkins and the backlash that happened when he did that, when he traded away the best receiver on the roster. Now put yourself in the position of a brand new GM and a new head coach, and you're trying to come into a new city and gain the support of the fans and the people in the city, everything about Houston, and you're going to go trade away probably the most talented guy at 25 years old, and the things that he's been able to do on the football field this season alone, the best season that he's had, and you're going to trade that away. He has at least 10 to 15 years of quality football. We know how quarterbacks can last in the league now. So you're going to trade that away? I think that would be the dumbest thing for a new GM and new coach to do, to trade away your franchise quarterback.
Well, it'll be fascinating to see. If it does come to that, and Dan, I see you shaking your head, and I agree with you. He's going to force it, but, I mean, Tannenbaum is right. They don't have to do anything they don't want to do. Once upon a time, Carson Palmer
Contracts are
retired
contracts.
in Cincinnati, right? He retired, and ultimately the Bengals got what they wanted in a trade back from the Raiders. So this doesn't have to happen quickly, and it may very well not happen quickly. Go ahead, Dan. Real quick final thought.
I guess then the answer is, what side is willing to get ugly? You know, what side is willing to let it get ugly? Is Deshaun and his camp going to sit out, or are the Houston Texans going to play hardball? I'm just telling you, Greeny, you've heard it from many people. Be careful. Be careful playing hardball, because a lot of the things that has gotten Deshaun Watson to this point don't have to do with what's happened on the football field. So everyone can understand kind of what that means, okay? So just be very careful, because you can